So you must have that, okay, to be a salesman. If you don't, you'll never become a salesman. I don't care how hard you try. I don't think I'm the type of person that is brave enough to admit I've made a mistake, honestly, because I think things have not worked out along the way, where things just didn't work out as I had hoped or dreamed them to be. But I don't see them as a mistake, because as quick as you're thinking, oh, poor me, you start to see the light of the door that it's opening that couldn't have opened without it. Okay, so I don't have like a regret of this was a big mistake or that was a big mistake. But I have to also say I have my whole life been very cognizant of doing anything and exposing myself to anything, even when I didn't want to do it, because I'm deathly afraid of feeling like I would regret. Like, what if I don't do it? That's more of a motivation for me than doing.
Me too.
You know, just like, will I look back? You know, like for example, with Dancing with the Stars, I did not want to do it. I'm an old babe. The last thing I want to do is practice 4 hours a day.
You were great.
You think I was so great? Not the judges. They didn't think so. I was the #1 person on Dancing with the Stars last season. #1 rejected. Now there's a record, okay? But so you might say that was a mistake with all the work that led up to, and it was a social embarrassment. I thought I'd be rejected maybe #3 or 5 or 6, but #1 I never saw it coming. And so I was kind of a little mortified on that one. But you know what? I'm so thankful I did it, and the minute I recovered by the next morning, I'm like, thank God I did it, and thank God it's over. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Because I didn't want to, I said yes because I didn't want to wonder what it would have been like, you know? So.
What did you learn from the experience about yourself?
I learned I'm not a good dancer. I swear, I've looked at the tapes now 1 year later, when I thought, same tapes I looked at a year ago, I thought, you know, I really got this. But I look at them 1 year, I'm like, I'm stiff as a board. What was I thinking? Missing steps. So what I learned from that is that I can't dance well, but inside my body I feel like I'm a good dancer, and I'll get out on any dance floor and do my own makeup steps, and people really smile as I'm dancing because I don't really give a crap, and I look like it, you know. Yeah, but what did I learn? I learned I learned the same lesson I learned again and again, which is thank God I did it. Thank God, and the injury of, oh God, you did so poorly, dissipates quickly, but there's an echo to not trying something that's going to sting you, I think. Not that I know that, because I really don't do that, but I'm afraid of it. It's like fear of a nightmare that might happen. I don't know why, because I don't really have that in my life, but I'm fearful of it.
Yeah, I think that'll sting you for a long time too. That fear of regret, of like, oh, I had the opportunity to do this Dancing with the Stars and I didn't do it. How many years would you think about not, you know, what?
Maybe a year, but still a bad year. You know what regret does, I think, and why I've been able to build up my personality and whatever I can get out of and give to life as best I could. What regret does is it quietly takes down your confidence a notch. Because in short, you were a coward. You shied away. Even if the right decision is to shy away. Once you shy away, you quietly, without even consciously thinking, think a little less of yourself. Now, I say that from experience because I've watched many people get stronger, or people where life makes them weaker. And there's a lot that goes into that. But I really believe that that regret piece is not given enough due. You really have to try everything and try your best, because and listen, 2 out of 3 things I try don't work out, you know, but people just remember the success. That's what I've learned. But I know what the failures are. But still, I got confidence out of failing each time. A little notch up, a little notch up. So then you conduct yourself with more power in life because you feel better about yourself. And ironically, you have more to give. You're a better package to give more because you've put a lot into that basket by just trying, you know?
Do you feel like you're more confident even though you're the first one out of Dancing with the Stars, that you did it and you went for it?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I'm more confident. I got a lot of confidence out of that because every female friend and male friend I had that was even close to my age,
they were like, I can't believe you even went for it, right?
They said, they discourage you, you're out of your mind, but I won all their respect, and they constantly say, that was amazing. That was amazing. So even my friends that kind of took me for granted think better of me. I went up a notch in their head, you know?
It takes a lot of courage to do that.
It takes a lot of courage to publicly fail, but I happen to be very good at public failure.
Really?
Because I've done it my whole life, and that doesn't bother me. I think what I didn't want to happen was that I would look foolish or old dancing with a 24-year-old ripped stud on the floor until I realized it feels really good to lean in on that guy and let him spin you around that floor. And how many of my girlfriends are having to dance with anybody like that lately?
There you go. That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
What would you say? Why are you not afraid to fail publicly?
Because you know what I've learned? Nobody's really watching. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
Everybody's
they forget about it the next year or whatever.
Or no, maybe even in the moment. Because the truth is that people, most of all, are thinking about themselves. So just when you think the limelight's on you and everybody's going to say, God, is she stupid? God, why would she say that or do that? The minute they've given you that one moment of attention, they're back onto their own problems, their own selves. So it's like overstatement of your ego to think you're really that important.
Right.
You know, you could just move right on. We could distract people. You try the next thing, their eyes on that if you're lucky. So no, it doesn't really amount to anything. It doesn't really amount to anything.
Right.
Yeah, it's self-ego. That is not really true.
That's interesting because you say that most people are focused on themselves. So when you mess up publicly or you fail publicly, they'll think about it for a moment, but then they're on to their own thing.
If you're lucky and they notice.
If you're lucky, you notice. Most people won't notice.
Yeah.
It just feels like everyone notices.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
But
It's
what
called
about
shame.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But what about when you want people to have the attention on you for the things you're doing good? How do you keep the attention on you, the relevancy of yourself as an entrepreneur or an individual when people are focused on themselves so much? How do you keep them thinking about you, your brand, your business, your work, your mission?
You have to think of a way to grandstand. You know?
What do you mean by that?
Good old-fashioned grandstanding. Like I built my Corcoran Group brand on the backs of the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and the New York Post, without a doubt. I would think of all kinds of crap to get media attention, okay, as long as my brand name was in there.
Really?
The single best thing I thought of, which was really just an attempt to get publicity when I couldn't afford advertising because it was a bad market, was my Corcoran report. And all that was a one-page report giving the average sale price of apartments in Manhattan, is how I labeled it. I was too stupid to know that was a wrong label. It was just my 11 sales. But it was on the front page of the real estate section,
Really?
and I was quoted on the first line. And boy, that was an eye-opener. That's how I learned that publicity can build a brand. Today's version of publicity that I look for in all of the entrepreneurs I invest in is how good are you at social media? I don't care if you're in the sock business, if you're in hardware or what's going on. How good are you at social media? What's your following? Those are the key questions now. How good are you at building attention through social media, because that's the new free ride. Not really free, but to a large degree free, just like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal were my free ride. Okay, so you have to be creative, I think, in thinking of how you can grandstand. And so what's like, I don't know, I'm thinking, what's a business right today? Like, well, I don't want to use Cousins. We already talked about Cousins. Like Grayson Lakes, which started out as a baby sock company. Phenomenal entrepreneurs I have.
Is this the long
lady stocking? Yeah, with the little lace on top.
I bought some of those for a girl before, yeah.
And they make girls look sexy.
They make them look great.
And they're well priced and they're beautifully made.
They're nice, they're elegant, they're sexy.
Well, now it's a full fashion line, and it's I think $17 million in sales this year.
Wow.
But what are they particularly good at? There's a husband and a wife team. Melissa, the wife of the team, has gorgeous long legs. You may remember her from Shark Tank. Her husband's more of a nuts and bolts guy, but great at business. What she does is she constantly models and talks directly to the camera. She has so many people that love her. She has limited editions. She sells out constantly. Wow. She's great at social media. She knows how to primp herself, look sexy, talk to the ladies, and get sales. Okay.
So she uses her assets, her skills.
But she does on social media, and that's built their entire business, social media.
Wow.
Yeah. And did I answer your question? Because I feel like I somehow got lost in my...
How do you stay relevant when things are going good? Because when your things are going bad, they'll look at you for a moment, maybe, where it seems like everyone's looking at you, but then they forget. How do you stay relevant while you're growing or while things are kind of going the same?
I'll give you another example. I have a company that I just bought in this past season. I was out of my mind to buy into them. It was two guys with a product called Comfy. It was a sweatshirt blanket. You slip into it, it's like a sweatshirt, but it's
I think I
actually a
saw
blanket.
some.
Okay. Why I say I was crazy to buy into it, none of the sharks, they were smart enough not to, is because they're two loudmouth guys having a good time, pitching their product, and they had no inventory. They had handmade their own product. Two prototypes, had no idea what it would cost to make, what they'd sell for, who they'd sell to. They had none of the answers, but they were great salesmen. And I said, I'll take 15 or 40%, whatever I got of it, boom, just because they're great salespeople, all right? And what they have done is they've done in their first year $11 million in sales.
Wow.
They found a way to produce it and sell it. But a couple of weeks ago, it was very quiet. They have had social media coverage to the moon and back, but it was very quiet, and they hand-delivered, and I wish I could remember the famous actress name, sexy, cool, long-legged actress. I'm so bad with names. Whoever she was, I think she was the same actress who closed the Oscars the other night. I might be telling you
I didn't
wrong.
watch it. But
Shame
I
on
watched
you,
the
my
highlight
man.
videos,
Oh, my
yeah.
God.
I was on a plane,
Oh,
so,
come on.
yeah.
All right. Well, anyway.
I saw your little watch party on Instagram.
Oh, so lonely,
Yeah.
man. But anyway, they sent hand-delivered to her front door how they found it in Hollywood, the package, and she put on video her jumping on her bed in it. They, quicker than a second, started a social media campaign, people competing with the jumps. They're Johnny on the spot. That's smart business, okay? They're causing attention. They made it happen, and then they're going to write it again, and it's going to be all over social media, all over.
Yeah.
They're annoyed with me that I'm here because I don't have their product because they want me jumping on the beds. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the hood on. I have one girlfriend that has gorgeous long legs.
There you go.
I'm going to Photoshop my head in to her long legs, and I'm going to win the contest.
Perfect. I like that. So grandstanding now is like more influencer marketing. If you can find creative
Yes,
ways to
that's a
find
fancy way
people
to put it.
with an audience, maybe it's a micro audience or a large audience.
Or create an audience of your own one by one. But you really have to be able to grandstand.
Yeah. I know you talk about the keys to entrepreneurial success a lot, but for those who haven't heard you talk about it, what are you think some of the smart ideas in business right now, the smart industries to go into if someone's maybe talented, maybe they sold a company or they're trying to start as an entrepreneur? What's an industry you really like, a product section you really like? You know, is software, is it coaching, is it consulting, is it an agency, is it physical goods, food? What's the type of category you really think
You
is
know,
smart?
really none of the above. Okay, it's not my cup of tea to think of an industry that you can. There's certainly leading industries. I don't believe that's where your head should be if you're thinking of going into business. I think your head should be is what do you enjoy? What are you naturally inclined to be good at? What were you always good at? These abilities don't change much. Whatever you're, you know, if you're gregarious as a young kid, you generally don't wind up as a bookworm. You know, when you get older and get a head on your shoulders, you're still gregarious. So I think what you have to do is think, what would suit me? What could I visualize myself doing where I could picture a happy picture of myself, you know? And I think most people are capable of dreaming that up. I don't think it's an analytical kind of left brain kind of thing where you apply yourself to your best shot, like going and playing blackjack and putting your chips on the right thing. No, I think you have to figure out, you're the table. Where should you put your chips? What's on you? What's true to you, okay? And so for me, it took me 22 jobs to find real estate, but the minute I was out opening keys, you know, opening the doors and chatting people up, and it didn't feel like work, and I was the boss, I knew I was going to be the queen of New York real estate. I knew it as sure as I knew my middle name was Ann. I just could see it in my mind's eye. I never had that vision when I worked my other 22 jobs. And the other thing, it's sort of related to what you asked. I think it's such wrong thinking that you have to choose your spot. I think it's like finding out what clothing you look good in. You got to go try a lot of shit on the rack and see what works with you. And then you kind of, little by little, kind of get your look on what looks well with on your body type, your personality, the colors that are good. I think you find yourself little by little. It's very hard to sharpshoot. It's not that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And often the people, I know so many entrepreneurs well beyond or well before Shark Tank, peers of mine in many industries that have succeeded. No one ever went out for that industry. And so that's what I want to do. But you know what made the biggest difference in a myriad of those, if that's a word, a selection of those people, that made the biggest difference was they came along someone they worked for who believed in them. Getting one good boss that gives you an opportunity is worth 1,000,000 intellectual thoughts and Harvard MBAs grouped up in a pile. Because you kind of can sometimes need somebody else to see that light, or you get into something you never thought you'd be interested in and you really love your job. And then that winds up being what you do for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And so I don't believe that you name the big industries. That's more Mark Cuban stuff. He's like high-level investment strategy stuff. But I'll put my businesses against his any day, 1-to-1. And because I think I'm so good at seeing who's got that talent that matches where they are, Yeah.
If someone's approaching you for investment or to partner with you, and you could choose only 3 qualities that you would dream that they would have, whether that's never giving up, a grit, a positive energy, whatever the quality may be, and you could say if they had these 3 qualities, it doesn't matter what business they're in. Maybe timing and the economy might play a little bit of part here and there, but like if they had these 3 qualities, they're most likely, I would bet on them any day.
Yeah, well, that's what I do every day on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
And I've gotten better at it because I've learned to hone in on those. I could think of 2. Maybe I'll come up with a 3rd if I keep talking. All right. Number 1 is salesmanship. I have never succeeded with any business where the principal didn't know how to sell. I mean, sales is the guts of every business. If you don't have sales, you're not in business. Any business applies to everything, okay? So, okay, if you're a technology nerd and really are in a technology space, but you better have a partner who could sell the shit out of it, or it ain't going to go anywhere, okay? So selling is number 1. The other thing I look for, and maybe it sounds weird to you, but I've learned it to be a great, almost insurance policy, I look for injury. I look for anger in the individual. If I could find someone, and this is true of all my successful business, interestingly enough, if I could find someone who had injury at an early age and has something to prove, I got myself a winner. It's like insurance, okay? So when I say injury, meaning they were dunce in school, like 3 out of 5 sharks were dunces at school. They're out to prove, I don't want to out them, so I won't use. I'm inclined to use the names, but I won't. I have entrepreneurs, usually successful, who never had a father, and then when they went on Shark Tank, their father, after 35 years, was back into how insulting enraged them. Okay, I have entrepreneurs who were sports figures, almost. Going to be professional sports people, had an injury, but were fiercely competitive with someone who wound up in their space. They hate that person because they played against them in ice hockey. Crazy. All I have to do is name the other person, their sales go up.
Wow.
So I think anger and proving is very much part of a lot of successful stories out there. It's an overcompensation, overproving, overdriving, like I'll show you. Give me the I show you, something that went wrong earlier, and you've got a motivated person, and it gets you through hard times really well. And then I'm coming up with a 3rd. There's a million other ones, but none of them as serious as that. It's those 2. You have to be able to sell, and if you have injury, to prove something, it's a wonderful insurance policy.
How important is a positive attitude with those 2 things? Like
well,
if you were
that's a
negative,
given. Oh, you don't. Let me tell you.
I don't know.
You're
Just
not even
negative
going to get
people.
out of the gate. Well, there's negative people. All right, you know
You
what's.
might be trying to prove people wrong and always nasty about it.
Forget it. Let me tell you what's true about a negative person. You won't meet them in the entrepreneurial space. You know why? Because they are far more comfortable criticizing the next guy than doing. Negative people are bloodsuckers. They just suck your energy away. The nicest thing I did for all the people that work with me over the years was get rid of negative people the minute I spotted them. I didn't care if I had cause. They were out. You know why? Because it's like letting the enemy quietly into your camp and giving them free rein. Negative energy is the enemy of all business, especially I've always been in sales-related businesses. You let a negative person into a sales force, they have a pity party, all of a sudden they need one more person to feel sorry for them or to point out what's wrong. It's terrible. I would spot them a mile away, feel their vibe. Do you have a few minutes on Friday? I'd love to have a chat with you. Wow. Because I felt like I was saving my good people. Yeah. You know, they were good, positive people. I don't mean criticism. It's invaluable in business. You need to have your criticizers to let you know when you're off and what you could do better. But I'm just talking about regular bloodsuckers, you know. You know, everybody's met a few.
I hear you. I hear you. Now, sales is number one for you. If they were a great salesman, you would bet on them. If they were a great salesman with something to prove, that's like the golden ticket, it sounds like. So how does someone train to be a great salesman if they don't know how to? Is it something they can learn? Or is it something you just have to be a part of your energy?
Well, you had questioned about positive. That's the blood that goes through a great salesman. Seeing the positive side of anything. And a lot of people see that as baloney. I don't. It's just like, you show me a negative and I'll say, you know, you're right, it's a negative. But I can tell you what the upside of that negative is. So you have a bend toward being positive. So you must have that, okay, to be a salesman. If you don't, you'll never become a salesman. I don't care how hard you try. I think it's an intrinsic quality, a personality trait. I know you're not supposed to say that. Everybody's supposed to believe you could become a salesman. I think if you're inclined to be outgoing and positive, you can become a better salesperson. But the real phenomenal salespeople that I have worked with, and I've made my living my whole life in different venues with phenomenal salespeople, I am telling you, they come out of the gate, maybe not out of the womb, but they come out of the adolescent gate as salespeople. It's very hard to teach that. It's an artistic gift to be able to sell really well, because think of how complicated it is. You have to read the situation accurately. You have to read the person and think of how you could use them in the way that they want to use themselves and thank you in a thank you note 12 hours later thinking it was their idea. That's a complicated little thing, right? And you need to think of how that person could be used for your long-term goal or the picture you want to create. So that's very complicated math in the head. And that's what great salespeople do.
If you want to learn more about how to master your mind, check out this next video right here.
We're all faced with great opportunities brilliantly disguised as impossible situations, and we are at that point, at that nexus point in our evolution as a species. So then you don't try to fix that. That's never going to work. What you do